Welcome to Bourbon School. I'm Brian.
And I'm Lauren.
Lauren, let's make a cocktail.
Ooh. So, Brian, what kind of cocktail are we making today?
We are going to make a classic Manhattan.
All right, do you know anything about a Manhattan, the history?
I do not.
Well, Brian and I are both history teachers, so I'm going to school you.
Okay.
Right? So the legend has it that the drink was made for Winston Churchill's mother, Lady Churchill, in Manhattan in the late 1880s. But that's since been disproven. So we know the drink was made sometime in the 1800s in Manhattan. That's about it.
Right. It's one of those cocktails that's history is kind of shrouded in mystery.
Which is kind of fun, really.
Yeah.
So today what we're going to do is make two different Manhattans, well, with different bourbons.
Right.
Of our choosing.
Right.
And we're going to compare and see which one we like better. What do you think?
Sounds good. Why don't you tell us what you picked out for your Manhattan?
All right. So for me, and this won't surprise you guys, I picked Maker's Mark. This was my top pick last week for 90 proof bourbons. And I like Maker's Mark because it has a balanced flavor, it's smooth going down, and there's no afterburn. Now, the problem I might run into is that it's a 90 proof bourbon, so we might lose some of the flavor of the bourbon once it's mixed with the other ingredients of a Manhattan.
Sure.
You might get me on this one.
Well, that goes along with my philosophy about a Manhattan. I prefer a higher proof bourbon for my Manhattan because I want to taste it coming through. So I always go for 100, 101 proof bourbons. And after much trial and error with many different bourbons, the one I have picked that I think makes the best Manhattan is Knob Creek 9-year. That's just your standard Knob Creek, but it's 100 proof. It's got a great flavor, and it's really going to shine through in our Manhattan after we add the other ingredients to it.
All right, Brian, let's make a Manhattan.
All right, let's go. What are we doing first?
We're going to start with 2.5 ounces of our bourbon of choice.
All right.
So all you need for this, obviously, is a little jigger.
And this is going to go in a cocktail shaker with some ice in it. We want it to be nice and cold. All right, 2.5 ounces of bourbon. Next, we want to add our vermouth. Now, a lot of people will tell you to go out and spend $40 a bottle on Antica vermouth. Mm-hmm. Some people go cheap and buy Martini and Rossi. I kind of found a perfect middle ground that I love, and it's this brand right here. It's called Method Bourbon. It's made here in New York State, and it is delicious. There's so much flavor in here, so many different herbal flavors and fruity flavors, and it really adds to your Manhattan experience. So I would recommend Method. You can find it on Mash and Grape. That's where I get it from. If I can't find it in a local liquor store, they'll just ship it right to you. It's a great, great vermouth. So we're going to do 1.5 ounces of our vermouth. So why don't you go ahead and put that into your shaker, and then I'll take care of mine.
Now, what flavor does the vermouth add to the Manhattan?
Well, vermouth gives it kind of almost like a sweet red wine kind of flavor, but it also has a lot of herbs and botanicals in it that will just add lots of layers of flavor to it and will accentuate a lot of the flavor that you get out of your bourbon.
Okay.
So I really, really think it's important to make sure you choose one that is definitely going to make an impact. You don't want one that's just going to kind of be like blah or just
overpower the bourbon.
Right. But you want something that's going to add some sweetness and flavor, not just add a syrupy sweetness to it. But so next, what do we have to put in next?
All right, so our bitters are next. These are Woodford Reserve, and you can find them at most liquor stores. If you can't find this, you can find the Angostura. Is that how you say that?
Yep, aromatic bitters.
Yeah, at the grocery store.
Right. And so you're going to do 3 dashes of these. Now with the Woodford, they have a little line on it so you know exactly where that is, and boop, you drop it in there. All right, you can go ahead and whichever one you choose.
Okay, Brian, I'm adding my bitters. So this makes it sweet, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. The bitters makes it sweet. Very good.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, so next we're going to stir it. So you take your fancy cocktail stirring spoon, and stir it up. Make sure everything blends nicely, and we want it to get a little cool too. All right. So as far as how to serve it, a lot of people, traditionally, a Manhattan would be served in a coupe with no ice.
And we're not that fancy.
Yeah, we're not that fancy, and I prefer my bourbon and bourbon drinks cold. Like, I don't like them getting warm.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is rocks glass, and we're going to use these large ice cubes. Okay, instead of putting a bunch of ice cubes in, we're going to use a large ice cube, and that way it won't dilute as quickly. The larger ice cube will melt a little slowly, so your drink doesn't get watered down.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead and put our tops on, and we'll strain this out into our glass.
Oh, it looks perfect.
And that's just about a perfect amount into our cup. Now, the final touch is what?
Oh, we've got our little cherries here.
Yes. Our maraschino cherries. And the all-important pirate sword poker stick.
Very important.
If you don't have this, you're not really making a true Manhattan. This was like my grandpa's Manhattans had these in them. My parents always had these in their bar.
And look how beautiful it looks.
It does.
It's a finishing touch.
For your cherries, Luxardo cherries, we're using Rex maraschino cherries. There's a lot of them out there. Woodford makes a good boozy cherry. So any of them are fine for your garnish. And there you have it. Your perfect bourbon Manhattan.
All right, Brian, you ready to try?
I am ready to try.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, that is so good.
Oh my goodness.
Fantastic.
It's perfect. It's blending that sweetness that you're looking for in a Manhattan, that slight bitter flavor, and I'm still getting the maker's mark.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm definitely getting the nuttiness from my Knob Creek.
You're a little nutty too.
Thanks. Set that one up for me. If you like what you saw, please like, subscribe, share the video, and hit the bell for notifications.
In our next video, we're talking about 100 proof bourbon, so stay tuned.
Cheers.
Cheers. And today, before we start, I think we should talk about a little history since we're both history teachers.
Let's do it.
Do you know anything about the Manhattan?
I do not.
All right, let me tell you. Brian!